Hey everybody, happy 4th of July. I've got my Happy Birthday America shirt on here and wanted to take just a couple minutes to record a quick video because it's been way too long since I've done one. I wanted to switch over here. I've been participating as much as I can in the Open Internet Summer Hackathon that Seb's been putting on, and I keep meaning to schedule a session to do something, and I'm having a hard time making a time commitment. So I figured, let me just record a virtual session and I'll just put it out there and people can take a look at it. So what I wanted to do today was to go and take a look at the game that they're building, this Reboot Game, and it's got certain rules, and it's kind of turning into a bit of a social network. And they've built this U canister, and the idea is that you can deploy a canister, and that canister is you. You give yourself a name. You need to ping it every day to prove you're alive, and you need to have you can have friends, and there's a board, I believe, that you can ping to, and you have to send it like 1 million cycles, and you get an entry on the board, and then the cycles. We get to decide what to do with the cycles. I don't think they've decided what to do with the cycles yet, but that will become like the sun of the network and provide energy to the network. So I wanted to do a little Motoko wizardry and use that to also create a video to talk about two important patterns that I think are important for Motoko development. One is the class plus pattern, which if you've looked at any of our ICRC fungible stuff, you've probably seen me talk about class plus. And the other is the migration pattern. The migration pattern was put forward by Yevgeny, who was a developer that I worked with at Origin, and who has built some amazing Motoko libraries like the map and the Motoko map that keeps insertion order, but is also a tree. I believe he came up with the migration pattern as well. So he definitely came up with the migration pattern. Class plus, I think Infu came up with class plus, and sort of called it that on the forum. So that was Infu over at Neutronite DAO. So what I'm going to do is this is the Reboot Game, and github.com/Motoko-bootcamp/reboot. There's some rules, some recommendations, and how to join the game. And then there is this repo is the U canister. So I am going to clone this. And now that I have that, I'm going to open it in Visual Studio Code. We'll take a quick look here at what we have. So we have source README. Looks like there's some instructions on how to deploy it. Cool. So I'm going to take a look at main. And there's two things that I want to do and later on. So I talked about the class plus pattern. So I'm going to take the core of U and move it into a class module, a class that follows the class plus pattern. Class plus allows you to have stable state inside of that is saved in stable memory in Motoko. And then when you instantiate your class, you pass the state in. So when your canister starts back up, you don't have to do any upgrades or anything. You just pass the state in, and your class reboots perfectly, so no upgrade is needed. Now, inside of the class plus module, we're going to use a migration pattern. so that each module has its own state that can be upgraded and that it knows how to upgrade itself. So we'll start initially, and I'll add an upgrade to upgrade this uCanister into our Class Plus module, and we'll have it all working together. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I am going to create, you know, maybe I should have forked this. Because I don't know if I have rights. So let me do that. Delete this. Okay, so let me grab my IC Devs account and go here. So just so y'all can see what I'm doing, go here. I am going to fork this. And then I'm going to clone it. All right, right back where we started from here. Move that away. And open back up our project. So this way I can push, I know I can push the changes up, and we'll we will be able to push it up to GitHub so you guys can see it. So the first thing we're going to do is, if I was actually making this a real module, I'd actually create a new project called U module or ulib or something like that. Instead, I'm just going to do it all here locally. The idea would be that eventually you could put it in its own module and push it up to mops, and then people could easily add it. But for now, I'm just going to go with u.mo, and it is a module. And let me open up, I'm going to use something else for reference here so that you guys don't waste too much of y'all's time remembering what I have to do. Let's take a look at ICRC1, I think. And so the first thing we want to do in our lib, our library file, is to see what this class is going to look like so that y'all understand the class plus pattern. So you can declare a class inside of your module, and this class is going to be U. And there's going to be a stored state that you pass into your class whenever you instantiate it. You want to pass in your canister principal because there's not a great way to see that from inside of a class, so you have to pass it in. And then we also have environment. You could, I guess you could put, and in some instances I've seen putting the environment or putting the principal inside the environment, and that would work too. So you'll see that it hates that we don't have a state, so we've got to declare our state. And to do that, we are going to declare, we're going to implement the migration pattern and put our state and make it easy to migrate from one version to the next. So we're going to do migrations, and then under migrations we're going to add v000 So here we're going to have what we call the unit migration. And I am going to paste in here these. And when we click on these, you'll see that we start with types. There's almost nothing in here. State is empty in our types and in our lib. We have upgrade and downgrade. Now I'm going to remove downgrade because you're getting put downgrade in, but I think any downgrade can be accomplished via an upgrade if you actually have to do it. So generally I've been taking that out. And now we need two other files in our migrations directory. And I'm going to paste these in at the top. Let's look at types. We're going to import something we don't have yet, and we are going to set a couple types here. So we're going to say that our current type is V010, and that there's going to be some args, some initialization args that we'll define in a minute. And our state looks like this. It's two variants, V000 and V010. The V000 has no data, and our V10 has this V10 state, which we're about to define. And then we have a lib here, which this is called whenever we do the upgrades. This actually runs the upgrades. So you'll see we have V10 upgrades. So we're gonna get rid of downgrades. So I will delete those. And we're gonna call a migrate. Whenever we call migration, we pass in the previous state, which is, if you'll recall, it looks like this, and the state can be an ID or have data. Usually we pass in the ID. So we're going to pass in that state, and then we're going to pass in the next state and any arguments that we want to pass in and who's calling this. And basically what we do is we say the current state is equal to the previous state, and we're going to get this migration ID based off of the top variant. So every time you add a new version, you're going to have to add a new line here. So if we do V020, you'd add another line here and give it a 2. You're not going to need to do a migration every single time. You'll only need to do it when your state changes. And then it looks at this and it says if the migration ID is not equal to the next migration ID, then we're going to call migrate. And because we don't need to, because we don't have downgrades, I can change this a bit. Let me see if I have that code somewhere else. Here we go. And I'll be right back. Hey, does somebody have an emergency in here? Okay, why are you banging on the door? Where is he? Wes, you can't give Mama some space? So we check to see if our next migration ID is greater than the current migration ID that we get out of our previous state. If it is, then we're going to get the upgrade of the next migration ID, and we will, here we're listing some debug information, and we call migrate. So when this migrate gets called, it's going to pass in these variables into the proper version of migrate. So we'll see that this lib here inside of our first version, its migrate does its upgrade does basically nothing, and it just returns a current state. So what we need is the next version, because we're going to start at 0 and we're going to instantly go to version 1, 010. And this is where we're going to define our current state and pull stuff out of our old, out of the main actor and move it into a class. Okay, so now things should settle a little bit. We have some legacy code here. Clean this up a little bit. All right, so now most things should be compiling. There we go. Well, almost everything's green except for init args. So that's because we haven't defined anything yet. So what do we need to define? There's a few things we have to define in here. We need to define our state. We need to define our environment. And we want to define our init args. So let's just call these args. I guess it should be init args. I like init args. You only use them when you're initializing, so we'll call them init args. So let's talk about our state first. What do we need to keep track of in our state? Things that we have. We have a version. Now, the version I'll show you how we keep track of our version in a little bit. So we have our birth, we have an owner, we have a name. So inside of our state, we know we're going to need those things, right? Birth won't change, so it doesn't need to be variable. Owner, principal. That probably won't change, I don't think. And then our name might change. Now, what type is a name? So currently, a name is a text. So now that might change in the future, right? What if in the future we want this to become something like that? We would need to, when our canister upgraded, we would need to go in and, I don't know, maybe try to split the name and try to assume what the user would want to do and put for the first part in first name and the last part in last name, and if there's anything in the middle, stick it in the middle. And so maybe we'll play with that later. but that's why you need a migration, because if this changes in between upgrades to this type, you have to have a way to manage that and to upgrade that variable. And that's what that upgrade does. So you would go into something like here, into our lib and our upgrade, and you'd actually write that. You would say, you would say, and then you want to say something like, up here you would take previous migration states dot name, and you'd like, text dot split. Space, something like that, right? And then you would say, all right, now the first name equals split 0, right? Last is split now. You want to be smarter about this in case there was only one here, but that's for the upgrade, and we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. So we're gonna go back here and just go with name being text. What other state do we have? Looks like we have a mood. We have, just kind of copy these over so that we have them. Friends. Friends is a different class. So now typically requests and errors come out of a service file. So you don't necessarily need to put the requests and responses into your state. I guess we don't need that. We do need time. And what else do we have here? Whether or not we're alive. Okay, do we have any more stable variables? Okay. Friend request ID. That's interesting. I'm not sure what he's using that for because I didn't watch all the videos. Sorry, I'm having trouble getting caught up. But since we may need it, let's. It looks like it's a counter. Okay, it looks like we do need a friend request because we do need the type friend request because we stored over here. Message ID. All right. Maybe the version we should be able to figure out from the state. Let's put it in here anyway. Okay, so we have our state. Now these have defaults. So you set your defaults when your thing instantiates here, right? So we're gonna say let state now we're in 010. Maybe I should have called this 020. So this will be a little confusing, but hopefully not. Birth. So the first time this instantiates, these are defaults. I didn't have current state. Just makes it a little bit more readable. Look at the time. We're going to set the owner equal to the caller here. So when we do our upgrade, we need to make sure we pass the caller in. And the name is going to be probably in our args. But args hasn't really been defined. In args. So we need to do that in here. So var is a name since it can change. So typically I do something like this. So args can be null because we want to make it easy to set up. So if it's null, we're not going to do this. We're going to say nobody. All right, so it's still mad because we're missing some things. What else are we missing? Alive, all right. So by default, it's gonna be true. Var mood is gonna have some default. Maybe we wanna pass in the initial mood in our arguments. Let's just call it not set. Now, is latest ping, I guess it assumes that the initial ping is when you create. Now I said that, so friend request is an array. Friend request, misspelled something. All right. There we go. Now we have our state and we are going to return our state. So what's missing here? We don't need this debug stuff. It might be interesting for you to see on your local replica. So let me just add it. This is just an interesting way to manage your debugs. So once you've got things going, you can change this to false and it will not do, it'll check to see if you want that omitted and omit it. This debug statement here means that if you compile this in release mode, it'll actually just not even put these items in your final release code. So it's a good way to save cycles until the Motoko team gets logging in the Motoko language, which I think they're working on. You have on canister logs now, I think, and so maybe I may change this pattern up a bit after that happens because I may want those logs depending on how costly they are. So I don't have anything red except for you, and that's because I need to import So typically you have the state, which has all the variants with the pound 010 around it, and then you have the actual state that's inside of that variant, and that's why we have these separate ones. Okay, now environment. All right. So now we have our class U, and we get to pass in this information. So what do we want you to do? We're basically going to just clean this stuff up. And if I make some horrible mistake, forgive me for not paying as much attention. But we are going to now import U from U. And we don't need these. Now these types come out of our class, so we actually are going to need to go and expose all of these. This one we might need to keep. That should render itself. This all is going to go away. We can now move kill inside of our class. And maybe I think we want it private, right? We don't want someone to just call kill for the fun of it. We could expose it since it's a class. We might want to expose it. So need time. So when our class is instantiated, we need to know what our state is, because it's going to get past this thing that we just created, right? What we do is we put some language in here like this that says, look, if we're going to switch on what's passed in is stored. So if you pass nothing in, then we're going to set this found state equal to an initialization function init is usually so we want to call migrate. make this just a little bit more direct. So this migrate function takes an initial state, and what do we want initial state to be? Initial state is just going to return the unit. So we assume that the initial state basically is just nothing, right? So if it's null, then we are going to do that. Our current state version, we have to declare inside of this class. So we're going to say that our current state that we want to get to is this v101. And now that looks good. And this will fail if we end up, if the found state ends up being not v010, but migrate should get us to the current version, so that should never hit. So once we've done this, we should have state, should be our current state, and we should be able to just do state.latest ping. You may want, no, let's put this in U, because we know we need it in U. Just nanoseconds. Okay. And then we can set our state.alive to false. We can now move this timer inside of our class as well. Probably should put that up here. I guess it's going to want it to be defined after the function. So because this needs send capability, our class actually has to have system capability. So if we do that, we should get rid of this error. So this is a public query, so we're going to want this to return our state.alive. So we now have to get this state into our main actor. So how do we do this? We do this by setting up a stable shared state. And I'd like to end up with better boilerplate than this. So we do something like this. Where's the top of our actor? After our types. Okay. So we're going to have a variable, a private variable called u, and that is going to be a nullable u.u, and it's going to equal null. Then we're going to have a private function called u, and whenever we call that, it's going to return a u.u. And we're going to check to see if this private variable is null or not. And if it is, we're going to return the u, which is our instantiated class. If it's null, we have to instantiate the class. So we're going to set that equal to we're going to set that private variable the first time through. So we don't want to instantiate every time. We only want to instantiate it once. And this will let us do that. I can probably move this into can I move this in here? That would be awesome. I'm not going to do that right now. It's going to get a little out of whack. So now anytime we want this, we should just be able to call it's a system though, so because we use a timer inside of it, we have to do the system thing, which is kind of annoying. Well, this is async, so it should need okay. So we want to be able to expose the state inside of our U class, right? So I guess, can I just make this a public var? I make that a public var. Now that's a little dangerous because now you can change these variables through other methods. Only actor bodies, async expressions, non-query ANC function bodies, and local functions with a leading system type parameter have system capabilities. Interesting. So it looks like I need to do this inside of a system thing. So once I initiate this and set you, then I'm gonna have to call, puts me right back where I was. I guess I haven't run into this yet because I haven't done a query. Okay, so we need debug, which I usually put under D. And this is how we have to do it in a query, which is kind of lame. But if we want to know if we're live, you need to access the private variable. So you can do this. So this is alive won't work until you've run some kind of initialization that initializes your variable. So that can be done. That can be done with a timer as well. So we'll just do that at the end. I'll show you how to do that. Let's just do it now. So what this does is it says we're going to set a timer to call init. This is going to get mad at us. Okay, this is kind of a annoying little thing that you have to do. So we are going to set this right after we're done instantiating. It's going to do call init. Then it's going to call init. It's going to instantiate an actor pointing to itself, and it will call myActor.init, which will then call you for the first time, and will be all instantiated, and therefore everything should work. And it looks like I missed something. Just a parenthesis. Now, if we ever define a service, and and we want to put this in the service, we can shorten that. Okay. So we'll leave the board alone. I'm just going to leave that there. I really feel like I should be able to get rid of this class thing system up here. It's because I want to call u.init timer. You can probably move that down here to our init. Yeah. Now we don't have to do u.system anymore, and that will be a lot cleaner. Did we get mood? Mood came in here. Okay. Do I need to set the mood here as well? Seems like I should do that. So we got rid of these. Now, it's kind of silly that I'm doing this because what I eventually want to do is move these into my class. So I'm gonna, oh gosh, this is super long. Yeah, okay, let's go back up here. Let's look at our functions and see if we can't now move our functions into our class. So inside of my class, I will move this and it's not shared anymore, but we do need to pass in our caller. I think that was done. Not sure what's going on there, so I'm just going to say. So we do need a write error. I'm going to add a service. So now all those things that I inserted, I don't need these. Get rid of them. What is it? Experimental. There we go. So we need to move the board in. Okay. This is going to need system. We want to use a weight star here because it may not await. So if you use a weight star, things will just go faster. Async star. What is it not like? There we go. So we're basically just, the next process is basically going through and moving these things so that your actor is going to get a lot smaller, basically, and most of your logic will be in here. So interesting. So I don't know that I need to move all these. Let's start with the shared. It's saying everything compiles, but that definitely should not be the case. We not do friends? Ah. Import friends. Where is friends declared? I apparently missed getting that into the state. Ah, here we go. State of our friends. I guess I just didn't put it in the state. So we need to add that to our state. I guess I can check friends and make sure that's what a friend is. Yes. And then in my library, I'll need to make sure that I make once that all settles out, that should be fine. There it goes. Array. We're not supposed to use array.append to people. We can fix that later. We'll upgrade our arrays to sets later, would be a good idea if we want this to actually scale. But those are async stars, and then we can go into main and we can That's interesting that you could only get your friend request if you're you. I guess that makes sense. So here's another public one. Looks, man, we had a ways to go. All right. So the next part's going to take a while. You may want to just fast forward this video while I add these. What's this one? Handle friend request. Remove friend request. Send message. Receive message. What does that do? Read messages? Why is this an update call? That should probably be a query. I guess we'll do this one too. And then we'll leave that. So let's replace these. Let's replace async space with async star space. This isn't pretty. I'm just trying to get through it quick. Okay. I just have to go through here and add these state dots everywhere. I did the same thing with messages that I did with friends. I didn't add them. Now, this is probably a philosophical thing. You may have wanted to put messages in a completely different library. So if that's the case, then you do what I'm doing here for a messages library, and you put them in a different deal, and that would be nice, because then you would be able to attach messages to different domains. Happened to kill. I may kill async. That's so. Oh, it can't be async star. So I just need to go to back to my thing here and look and see what. Look at that. That's interesting. Probably should make that a type. Oh man, have I been cutting off the right side of the screen the whole time? That's gonna be a real bummer. Booger. Okay. Well, if you've been missing some code, I apologize for that. Hopefully I haven't done too much on that right-hand screen. Oh my gosh, what is... And remember, if we add a variable, we got to go back and make sure it's added to our state. All right. Now what functions did we just do? making some progress. Looks like I got some errors. What is this? Did I not replace this one? We could move this HTTP query into the library, but I'm not going to do that right now. Just to show that you have some freedom, you can, if you have stuff that you want to do outside your library, you can. And if you want to do stuff inside your library, you can. And see, we also want, we got some cycle balance. There may be other stuff in here that you want to do. Computer's running really slow. It looks like everything's compiling. Everything's good. Okay. So the thing that we need to do now is, if you have an existing canister and you want to use this code, your state won't match and it'll erase you. We don't want that to happen, right? So, because of that, I probably shouldn't have deleted these stable variables out of here just yet. Because the first time we do this, we're going to need to put stuff into here. So let me see if I can do this. I want them to make sure they're in the right place. So come on. Let's right click, guys. Just looking for our stable variables. Huh. Where's friends? That's super weird. I can't find the declared variables in here. And I know I deleted them. There we are. Ooh. Friend requests gets. Why can't I grab? This is really annoying. I want to grab these lines. I'm gonna move this over here. Make sure you guys can see this here, and then I'm just gonna go find them. Reboot user receive friend requests. So we have our friends here. It's interesting that the friend requests weren't stable. I guess those reset every time. Stable var message ID, stable friend request. ID, stable friends. Ooh, messages aren't stable either. Interesting. All your messages go away after a reboot. That's a bummer. What if we liked those messages? Okay, so there's 9 stables over here. I'm gonna check for them here. Friend request, friend message ID. Let's go back to top. Version, birth, owner, name, alive, latest ping. Friend request ID, friends message ID. So we have to keep these stables in here or stuff starts getting erased. Give myself a little more room here because we're gonna need to go to our upgrade. Now why is everything I deleted my dang. Man, I hope all that init stuff didn't get deleted. Man, I am going to do some make sure this all compiles and I didn't delete anything. Okay, now I'll put these back. Git can be dangerous. That anymore. I don't need that anymore. Okay. Ooh, we don't have an upgrade. I have been using this so long that I don't even remember what upgrade looks like. Because you don't have to do upgrade anymore after you do this. Is it like system? Okay, so what we have to do here is we need to make sure that if we have existing values, because it's going to use our new state. I can't. It's going to tell me that I can't do this because maybe I can. So the problem is some of these are non-starters, so now after you do this, is mood not permanent? I guess it doesn't hold your current mood. That's maybe why it wasn't updating mood. So maybe this should be called last mood. So I guess in this version, it's set. Your mood is saved. Maybe I'll decide that maybe that was a conscious decision. There is messages ID. I must have missed that stable variable. So this post upgrade should update your state to what you were before. And that's it. It was very long. I think I went way, way longer than I expected it to, and I'm not going to be able to edit this before anytime soon. So I'm sorry you get the warts and all, including I may have gone and screamed at my kid at one point. If I did, I'm sorry. So I'll check all this in. Now, man, I guess I should. I guess I should see if it works, right? Y'all don't want to leave unless this works, right? Pull and push. Okay. Why can't I pull and push? Push. Oh, I know why. It's because my stupid Git needs to be changed. How do I do this? GitHub.com URL equals. I hate this. This is mine. This is me. Ah. That's interesting. I must have given myself access to this. What was that? Oh my gosh. Man, guys, sorry, this is almost 2 hours. We are close. If this will give me control of my computer. Why is it going so slow? Okay, so let me find the deploy. I must have cycles. Cycle faucet. Convert ICP. Use approximately 3 trillion cycles. So DFX identity use default identity. Can I see how many cycles I have here? I wonder if this is a cycle wallet. It's likely very old. Did I IC0.app. Body does not pass verification. Huh. I wonder why it's raw. See if I actually still own this thing. You do not have access to this wallet. If you have administrative control, or know someone who does, I guess I can just check to see if it has cycles somehow, right? So GFX wallet. Balance. I got a bunch of cycles. Cool. All right, so I may have just made a horrible mistake. Okay, so if this works, build it. Nice. And I don't want to die. I'm gonna have to check this every 24 hours now. Okay. See, this is where it starts to feel like a job. That's okay. I must have messed up. Code none. My message too long. All right, let's find out what I did wrong. My name's Nobody. myself. I forgot the most important thing. Your thing has to be stable. So, I thought we did this. Did we not call migrate? Nope. So the first time we run through this, we're going to instantiate this U state with basically the old data. So the identity, and we want to upgrade to 1. Our args migration. Now it's interesting that the creator was set to itself. And then when we instantiate this, we want to instantiate it with uState. Now we didn't do anything with environment. I don't think we need anything with environment yet. Okay, let me that should be me. Why is it using and build it? That looks way better. But I have no friends. Let's send Seb a friend request. Why? This is Seb every time. So DFX canister call, DFX canister network IC call. Call you, reboot user, send FRIND request. Enter a principal. Hi, Seb. I have migrations and class plus working. Cool. That's it. I'm gonna stop there because it's been like 2.5 hours. I'll push this code up. I'll try to edit this later and get the time down, but I'm gonna go ahead and publish it super long so that people can watch it if they want on high speed. Thanks a lot, and I will see you guys in the Open Internet Summer.